Hello and welcome to Might Be Awesome. My name is Sam Basher, and as always, joining me is Mr.
DJ Wooldridge.
And Miss
Trisha Hirschberger.
And we've been breaking down the whole final season of Game of Thrones on HBO. Boy, howdy, it has been a ride. No adjective before that. It's been a ride because there's many opinions on this final season of maybe not arguably the biggest TV show that has ever aired. I'll put it out there.
It's hard to think of one that's had as big a pop culture presence as this.
Sesame Street.
Which
maybe
makes
Lost.
It makes me so happy that it became such a huge pop culture phenomenon, because as like a fantasy literature nerd, no one liked that before.
No.
So the more people we can bring into, come to my fantasy world.
And see, now even better, there's every network has at least 2 or 3 of their own Game of Thrones they're trying to make. Fingers crossed that The Witcher is good. Fingers crossed that The Witcher is good. Please.
We all want it to be good, but let's talk about. Let's not waste any time.
Yeah.
We've been waiting. I've been waiting 2 years. Everyone else has been waiting 30+ years for the final episode of Game of Thrones. There you go. 500 years.
Yeah.
For
500.
Season 8, Episode 6, The Iron Throne. In the aftermath of the devastating attack on King's Landing, Daenerys must face the survivor. She doesn't have time to do that, really. So if you guys didn't get, there's no reason for this to be spoiler-free, because if you're watching this, you're a fan of the show.
Yeah.
So we're going to go beat by beat, overall thoughts, kicking it off. It's been pretty divisive at this table about our overall thoughts on this season. I want to kick it off with Trisha. You're buckling in for the final episode of Game of Thrones. Paint a picture for us. How'd you feel about it? What was the evening like?
So I unfortunately have been emotionally checked out since the bells moment in the bells. And I hate that I feel that way, because most of my wardrobe is Game of Thrones oriented. I have a lot of Game of Thrones jewelry. Most of my house decor is Game of Thrones. You both know. You've
got
been
the sword.
there. Like, I am a huge Game of Thrones fan. So to have me be checked out of the series in the finale was just like the saddest thing ever. But that's how I felt. Like I couldn't build excitement. I just emotionally I couldn't get there, and it was so heartbreaking. But of course I want to watch it because I want to see how it ends.
There's only one more.
I could never. I'm not like mad at it. It's very hard to describe. I'm not mad at it.
You're just disappointed.
Don't care. To do the caring.
I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed.
But also, you saying you don't care, that stings a little bit more.
Right, and it stings for me to
for me.
feel that and say that. So that being said, I didn't host a party for this finale, because I was like, no matter what they do now, it's broken. And I can't get excited. So obviously that tinted my viewing of the final season. But I did make a special dinner with like meats and potatoes and very like medieval fantasy style feast.
Did the meat have a big old bone in it? Because that's how I imagine.
It did, yeah.
It got
so I did that. That was my mini celebration. But normally I go all out, and I didn't this time. And I buckled in for what would be the last episode. And I have to say the season 8 finale met my expectations for what I thought it was going to be after the bells.
Interesting inflection on what you said, as it almost sounds like a positive sentence,
Yeah.
but it isn't.
Like, it was fine, not exciting. And after 20 years of really loving this series, I should have felt something. And I felt nothing.
There you go.
So that's, I think, what I tweeted out was like, this finale for me was a hard nope. And I have a lot of mixed feelings because I do still love the show. I absolutely love the franchise. I'm wearing my Westeros dress today because I still love Westeros. I actually think it might have been an elaborate ploy by George R.R. Martin to sell more books. So everyone that's like, now I can't wait till George finishes the books and we get the real ending.
You might be waiting a long time.
I know. In my dream universe, the series ended the way it did. It stunk. And then George is like, surprise, here's the rest of the books. Just drops them the next day and makes $1 million.
Which, by the way,
$1 million.
Probably more. money, inflation.
If
$1 million.
If George told these guys it was going to end one way and then saw the reaction and changed it, that's cold.
No, I'm not mad at how it ended. I'm not, so how it ended is a very encompassing term. I'm not mad at where a lot of the things ended. I'm upset with how we got there. I felt like we skipped over a lot of really important things, both character development wise and mythos of this universe wise. And it felt like it was hurriedly put together by people who didn't care enough about this world, which that's why I'm heartbroken. But these are just my feelings, and other people have other feelings. DJ,
kick it off.
Honestly, I can't imagine, for me, I can't imagine this show having a better finale for the show it was. Would it have been nice if Jon and Dany weren't related and were able to have a happy ending? But yeah, I would have liked that. I would have liked it if Arya and Gendry had gotten together. I would have liked it if the show had more people of color. Like I would have liked those things, but that wasn't the show we had. And for me, as the episode was going on, I really think it completed the circle. It's finished off the story it was telling, stuff that it had set up that I didn't realize it had set up since the first season. Everything, like there were moments, like not as big as last episode, but there were moments last episode I was like, wait, what? Bran, what? And then as it went on, I was like, you know what? No, this makes sense to me. Like I see where this is going. I can't conceive of a better solution for the problem, for the issues that this season had to wrap up. It ended as we began, but with a kind of like bittersweet, hopeful note. I don't know. I honestly think for the show we got, I think this was a perfect ending.
Interesting. Well, first up, Trisha, when you gave your sum up, you said buckle up, and it made me smile, and you can go back in the footage and watch that. It was the biggest smile I've had all year. Yeah. But last night, we were lucky enough to be invited out by Stardust to the Arena Cine Lounge over in Hollywood, California, which is pretty cool. Big Hollywood. And we sat in the theater, and we got to watch the finale, which was a very fun way to do it. It's surround sound, and like a lot of the big moments, and hearing the score for this final episode was a real treat. And overall, I think I enjoyed it as much as I could. I actually like my position on this board here because you have two diehard fans and someone who just recently caught up. So I'm overall like like my emotions aren't. I'm not like drenched in the show. I'm not like too like sucked into it, but I still enjoy it overall. So I agree with DJ when it comes to where our characters ended up, and Trisha. But the end of the road for some of our characters, I was fine with, and fine to. I don't want to say happy because a lot of it wasn't good for some people, but like I enjoyed.
Didn't where they wanted to be.
Yeah, I enjoyed where we ended up with some characters, but I think there are some moments where I'm like, I don't know if I really get what's happening here. Like, I don't know if I get what's happening, and I get the writers being like, here are the road signs now. Like, the clip was coming up, but they didn't show us the road signs until, like, right before. It's like, here it is. This is what we meant to be saying the entire time. And I'm like, I get it. The clip was always there, so it doesn't matter when we got the signs, I guess. But I do kind of want to dive into it. Also, found out what's more annoying than unsatisfying ending is someone eating food with an open mouth next to you during a screening and checking their phone, and then they did this, eating popcorn in a paper bag, so they're like rustling around. He cleaned his shirt this way towards me, and I was like, I don't know how I'm in.
Sam, I needed my popcorn. It wasn't me.
That's at least the nice part about having the viewing party at your house.
Exactly.
You can be like, no.
Yeah, I will say the one thing because people's reactions were already mixed. I was a little nervous about going to this thing, and I will say at the end they're like, the guy comes out, what did everybody think? And I'm like, yeah. And it was just me. I was like,
to be fair, I did a half clap, and then I heard him doing it by himself, and I backed up.
I was like, all right, well, I guess just me. I don't know.
Which is crazy to me, because DJ and I have had opposite reactions online since last night, but I feel like we all remember, like, our brain categorizes the threat information coming in more loudly than it does the other stuff. So I was like, I feel like everyone online, like, it's so cool to be like, hey, I liked it. All you haters back down. You're so entitled. And DJ felt like everyone that was like, you're so stupid. I can't believe you liked it.
I'm a dumb misogynist because I liked it.
Yeah, that's thanks, Twitter. You guys are fun. But overall, people
can have different opinions and still be friends.
Yeah, it's all good. And gang, give it 10 years, and the opinions are gonna change.
Give it 10 years, and then
maybe we'll have a book.
And maybe we'll have a book. We'll probably have a sequel movie because Tyrion's just like, hey, come talk to me in 10 years. Turn the camera, wink.
I have a bad sunburn. That's stung
sorry.
real bad.
Where did you go?
I went camping, and I made it back in time for the finale because that's how much I cared. But I got burned similar to the children of King's Landing. So let's hop into the beginning of this episode. We see that's a hell of a segue. And let's talk about Tyrion making his way through the city. I think the way this episode can kind of be broken down is us seeing the fallout of King's Landing up until the Iron Throne being melted. That's like section 1, act 1. Act 2 is picking the king. Act 3 is what's the future of the show. So we'll kick it off with the beginning of this episode. We're seeing Tyrion taking the city. You're seeing like that naked guy totally burned walking down the street.
He's fine. He's walking it off.
He's walking it off.
He
got out of the city.
Yeah.
He was a little too late, but he was making his way out.
Heart-wrenching.
Also, it didn't really matter that Arya got on a horse and rode away at the end of the last episode because we saw her without a horse later. It doesn't matter. And you see Jon and confronting Greyworm, and Greyworm's trying to kill the remaining Kingsguard, and Greyworm's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit. Understandable.
No.
But a little like he ain't messing around, and then he teleports.
So when your queen goes mad, you go mad too.
Yeah,
apparently.
Well, I mean, when the love of your life is head's cut off, you want
in front of
a
you.
little fire blood too. I was happy. I was a little worried that like, oh man, are they gonna make it so one of these white guys has to kill the one person of color left on the show? Unfortunately, Greyworm makes it out all right, and he's leading his people now. So
there you go, and they get land.
I mean,
somewhere.
besides the fact that he's like an angry, vengeful, destroyed human, but yes.
I mean,
yeah,
but
his
half the
life's
cast is
over.
at this point. Yeah.
He's a shell of a man.
No, I mean, fast forward the end, he goes to Nath, which I thought was funny because he's like, going there because that's where Missandei's from, and I was like, all the Unsullied are just gonna roll up to Nath and be like, hey, I dated a girl from here once.
Yeah.
Like,
so now I'm king.
Okay.
I will be king. But yeah, as we work our way through this, Greyworm somehow teleports up to the little stoop with Dany.
That was one of my little nitpicks. I like Jon's confrontation with Greyworm, and then they kind of make they leave each other. And then Jon makes his way through the city, and I really like the framing of Dany with her soldiers, because it's like, this is a nightmare. This is
genuine, because you see the Dothraki riding around, and you see it from Arya's point of view, which has been a good device for the past 2 episodes to show you how scary this is. That they're not on your side anymore.
Turns out, like the greatest army in the world, if you're on the receiving end, is not so cool.
Sounds
like
fun,
maybe.
Terrifying. But that shot where Daenerys comes out with the dragon wings behind her was maybe the coolest shot in the entire series. So there were some redeeming moments.
So you can't deny that, and also just. The scene just getting ahead a little bit when you see Drogon shake off the snow and him confront Jon. I just thought that
snow or human ash.
See, that's the thing. I'm like, how could you have cooked that many people and get it up in the air? Doesn't
and
matter.
Buildings.
Semantics.
Buildings
too.
Buildings, humans. That's what I thought. Well, but then it was debatable. Is it winter? Was it actually snow from winter coming south, or was it ash from all of the destruction?
I assumed snow, but probably.
Let's say both.
No.
And cover our bases.
I had a moment where I was like, assuming it was snow, and then I was like, oh, that's human ash remain. Gosh, that's dark.
And then we get to a moment where we get to Dany's big speech for her army. And this is a very powerful moment for her. It's well acted. Also, I like that they set up in the last episode. I kind of forgot, I'm like, does Tyrion, can he speak?
Tyrion and Jon.
Yeah, they both can't understand what she's saying right now.
Which is why when they talk about it later, you're like...
Yeah, especially when like Jon's trying to defend it, and it's like, man, if you knew, if you knew what she said, you would probably not be.
Bit of a scorched earth policy.
Your D&D sheet does not say speaks High Valyrian.
No, it's I will say, as a criticism from Sam over here, moderate fan, I'm like, I get it because you just burned the city, so you're pretty on board with the whole idea of burning things now, people who get in your way, which has been. We've seen that, but I'm like, I've never heard you try to sell it or sell it to your audience that like this is the policy that we're gonna make going forward. We're gonna liberate people by burning down what was before, and I'm like, it's not crazy. This isn't new. I'm just like, I guess I've just never heard you say this before, and I don't know how I feel about your character now. Fully selling this to your people. If I'm saying that, hopefully I'm saying it the best I can. Her speech felt confusing to me, but at the same time, I'm terrified and I'm sold. And she acted the hell out of that scene. I don't know if I bought her that that character trait now that she had
But
adopted.
that speech completely turned around, right, Trish? No. What did you think?
I was happy to hear that speech because I felt like it was trying to go back and justify what happened last episode, which my biggest problem with the bells was that I didn't feel like that snap, that change. I didn't believe it in the moment. I didn't feel like we had enough to get there to warrant, or I mean, we keep using the word justify, but justify can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
I don't mean justify it as right. I mean justify it so that I could believe it in that moment, and I didn't. So I was happy that they had this speech, but I also the fact that she kept using the word liberate. We have liberated the people of King's Landing, and I was like, there are no more people of King's Landing, so. It's very confusing to say
the burning guy.
It's very confusing to say I've liberated the people of King's Landing because there was you didn't. There's no people left for you to liberate. And then when she goes on to say, and we're going to liberate Winterfell and Dorne. So do you just mean you're going to go murder everyone, but you're using the word liberate? Or do you actually want to save some of the people there from something, but you're currently their tyrant? So are you going to liberate them from you? Like, I was very confused by what her philosophy was, which is kind of has been my recurring problem. And I know I keep comparing it to Avengers, but we were all very clear on what Thanos' philosophy was, which is why it made it so heartbreaking that, he really believed he was right. And it worked so well. And I feel like the writers did Emilia Clarke an injustice because she did definitely act the crap out of it to the best of her ability. But I feel like in not really fleshing out what her philosophy was, just by saying, oh, she snapped, bad things happened, she snapped, I felt like that did a disservice to Daenerys as a character, to a lot of the fans who've been rooting for Daenerys for over 20 years. And I found within the last week, most of the people who were not okay with the bells were people who really liked Dany. And most of the people who were okay with it were people that either didn't care for her or were just kind of on her character. So right.
I didn't dislike her character, but I was...
But for people who were like, if you're going to take, fine, take my team, I guess. I'm bad at sports. Take my team out of the running, but at least show me how it happened. Yeah. I want to see the lost match or whatever. Again, I'm horrible at sports, so please forgive that analogy.
I think most people watching this will probably also be bad at sports, so hopefully. I will say, that would make sense to me that a lot of people that were very, very on board with Dany. I like Dany. I mean, Dany was it's a Song of Ice and Fire, one of our two main people, you know what I mean? And I think what made it work for me is, for one, the idea, I think there's not enough stories that invest in the idea that people with good intentions can do awful, awful, awful things, especially within the context of being the good guy. It's one thing when it's Thanos, because we know going in, we've had 2-3 movie stingers of him being a weirdo bad guy, so we know he's bad.
A scary chin, too.
Yeah, scary chin.
Scary
not
chin.
To be chinnist, but he's got a scary chin. But also this episode really seemed to emphasize this is putting up not only a mirror to the audience, but a mirror to the United States in particular, in how we view, probably ever since the dawn of time in humanity, but I'm going to say ever since World War II, it's like, hey man, we're going to go liberate Vietnam. What does that mean? We're going to go drop bombs on them. Hey, we're going to go liberate Iraq. What does that mean? We're going to go drop bombs on them. You know what I mean? What does that mean? It means the same thing Dany means. We're going to free them from themselves, and the only way we know to do that is because we have higher military power than they do.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
I like that, free them from themselves.
Yeah. Because
well said, DJ.
Because Tyrion says this, and I think for me what really sold it is Tyrion has, series best acting, I think, specifically
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, Kit Harington, and Emilia Clarke. And when he's like, listen, she crucified these people, she burned these people, and who could say anything about it because they were bad? But now we've reached the natural conclusion of that, where now anybody she thinks is bad, in her mind, if I burn them, they must be bad. So anybody she burns is bad.
Everyone she's burned so far, we cheered at. Yeah. Everyone, the audience and the people that she was liberating at the same time.
And I know as a viewer, I always thought this was something that she was going to have a negative, you cheer because they're bad, but I always felt like there was always that little icky feeling, this is still not okay.
You look evil doing this.
Yeah. And so I thought this was something she was going to be confronted with typical hero's journey stuff have to overcome. And she did.
She did.
And she did.
I loved that Tyrion speech. I agree. I also felt like, come on, justify the bells for me.
Yeah.
Make me back in this, please.
Tyrion, like, kicking off this episode, you see him walking through the city. You see him getting to the crypts, which was surprising that he was even able to get through. And that what looked to be the entire crypt collapsing, he was able to find Jaime and Cersei, which I actually liked. They found them together. The imagery was very beautiful
moment.
of them laying
I liked
together.
His performance. It felt, for me, that was one of the few moments where I was like, that's a little too easy. Like, I just feel like you couldn't find. Maybe he finds the hand.
The hand would have been interesting too, but seeing them together was enough for me. I enjoyed that. Him throwing the pin was a good moment as well. But Jon and Tyrion scene, which we get 2 of them in a cellar together. The first of it being him convincing Jon, like, no, man, you have to make this decision. You have to make this call, and it's. I am so surprised Tyrion made it through all this. I'm so surprised. Why?
He's tiny. He's harder to hit.
No, this is not an actual real criticism. Just bringing this up. Why did Dany wait? Drogon's there. Just nuke him right there. You just nuked a city of children. Tyrion.
Listen, when you're at a party and you're having an argument with friends, you're like, hey, I'm gonna keep doing my party thing. All right, we're gonna have this conversation later.
We're gonna meet outside the parking lot. And we're gonna go figure this out. But anyways, that's not a real criticism. I just wanted to bring it up. But as you see, we get to a moment where like Jon he's come to the point where he knows that he has to kill Dany, and you see him walking through the ash, snow, what have you, seeing Drogon, beautiful imagery in this episode, and getting to their final confrontation. You pointed this out, that Dany doesn't even get to sit on the throne. She does is touches it.
She gets to the throne. And
she's literally inches from it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. She gets to...
Right there. And she never sits.
No.
Yeah.
She never sits down.
What did you think of Jon and Dany's
final confrontation?
I honestly thought, if we're going to go that Jon is full Ned Stark, which I had a lot of people getting real mad at me online telling me that Jon was able to be a wet noodle because he's Ned Stark's son. He's not really Ned Stark's son, is my answer to that. But I feel like if he is going to be like super loyal, good and true, I don't know that he would have sneaky bladed it. Sneaky dagger? Sneaky dagger is a little... I'm going to kiss you. It's a little underhanded, I feel like, for someone that's maybe as straight of an arrow as Jon. Overall, I, at this point, was like, well, someone has to kill Dany. And when he was in that room with her and talking to her, I was like, they're going to make it him. I just don't know how it's going to happen. So it wasn't really shocking to me. I didn't think after that conversation with Tyrion that he was going to go full on board, you're my queen. And it was okay. That's kind of how I felt about a lot of this episode. It was fine.
Yeah.
You kind of... from your, I can kind of see, like, you'd wish that had a bigger punch to it. For me,
yes, as a Daenerys person forever, I would have loved to have felt something when she was murdered.
I did not see. I honestly, again, more casual, watching that, I'm like, yeah, that's totally in her power to have stabbed him, like 100%. Like, yeah, you are the biggest threat to her. This is easy. She's already done so much more. Stabbing you right now would have been an easy out. But of course, I also knew in the back of my head, I'm like, that's not how the show's going to end.
Right.
So, that's not how the show's going to end. But I could see on the writers' room, like, maybe it's up in the air for about 2 seconds.
Yeah. I did like the moment with the dragon immediately after, though.
Having the emotional connection.
Having that emotional connection with his mom. And also, it actually, I laughed, which I probably shouldn't have been laughing at this moment because this was supposed to be a very sad moment. But when he turned and melted the throne, I was like, that is totally a parent that doesn't want to hit their kid that punches their fist through the wall. That's definitely what just happened.
Drogon's a bad parent.
I'm not, you're a Targaryen, but I'm mad. How did you guys feel about that scene?
Well, at first I was like, how does it know? Because I think the impression, I think you brought this up too, first you have this feeling of like it's destroying the throne because it knows that that's what caused Dany to die, but also how would it know that? But I think the way it was put together reminded me of the idea that the dragons are kind of been our one focal point of magic in this universe. So it's this kind of like, it's to me, that is one of the most fantasy magical moments of the show. The dragon destroys, it has some sort of magical understanding of destroying the throne. It takes Dany off to who knows where. And I like that. I like that. I like that we don't know where it takes her. I like that, like, because it leaves the door open. Like maybe she could be resurrected. It adds a sense of mystery to to the proceedings that I think is a nice grace note to her story, that she went into the fire, came out with the dragons, and the dragon takes her away to do who knows what. Maybe there's a dragon ritual, like, an elephant graveyard, but for dragons. Like, I don't know.
I think it was really lucky for Jon that's how that went down. How's he going to take down a dragon?
No, yeah. You can't scream at another dragon, dude. That's not gonna fix your problem.
It didn't work the last time.
No, I felt that was... I get the imagery, and that's all it was. Like, that's all I took it as a scene. I'm like, there's been a lot more meaningful things that have happened in this entire series than what's happening right now with the dragon melting the throne. Visually, cool. That's it. And and flying away with Daenerys. I'm
also,
like, cool.
Fun nod to the books when she's talking about how she imagined the throne as a child, because it's more close to the way, because in the books apparently it's supposed to be like big and scary, and,
which is
kind of a nightmare.
I did like that as well.
That was a fun nod to book readers.
And forged by Dragonfire and destroyed by Dragonfire.
Classic. Closing the loop on a lot of these.
Whichever dragon forged that was a very patient dragon. A lot of, because it seemed a lot easier to destroy than it would be to weld it together. But
maybe a guy ran in and just kind of put a mold down.
Also, can we just say poor Jon has now had the second love of his life die in his arms?
Classic. Just stop dating, man.
Maybe do a timeout.
Time out for a little bit. Give it a couple years. You'll be good to go.
Well, he's not allowed to date ever again.
Not allowed to, but we saw how much those rules applied.
And he's heading north of the wall. We're getting ahead of ourselves, though. We get to Tyrion, who, again, has not been killed. At all. And he is brought before the council of the last remaining most powerful people in Westeros. Which I was like, cool, this is actually a cool group of people.
Which, speaking of people who have not been killed. Edmure Tully.
Edmure Tully. I had to write that. I had to ask, and I don't know if I even wrote it right on our teleprompter, but...
No.
I like that bit. I liked it with as grim as last episode and the beginning of this episode was. And I think it was very true to his character. Like, oh, we need a king? Guess what? No, not me. Okay, fine. I'll just sit back down. All right.
Hey, at least someone's got he looked like he was like, I guess I'll say something. And you didn't read the room right. Also, they throw out the idea of democracy, and everyone's like, could you freaking imagine if people had the right to vote? And even Sansa's like, yeah, right. I love the North, but not that much.
I like that just because when Sam did it, I was like, this is weird. Like, the way this is playing out is weird. They can't go because it felt like a cheaper show where the magical music plays up and he's like, what about if everybody could shoot? Like, no, let's get out of here. We're not, not yet. Listen, the world's going to be a little bit better, but not that much better. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, I was so very okay, now we're doing democracy now. Fine. Because that's just... I was riding that fine wave through this episode.
Turns out this show is way more electoral college focused.
Somebody floated the idea of there being a council that ruled. I thought that would have been a really cool idea, but that's fine. And we get to Tyrion for some reason getting a say in anything that's happening anymore. He should not, honestly, genuinely on paper, stop asking him for advice.
Well,
he's great, cool look, cool beard, cool guy.
I also hope that if and when we ever get the books, that maybe Tyrion is a little bit more true to early Tyrion character and that he is a wise person. And doesn't just bungle everything for the second half of the story. I would love to see that. Also in the books, there's a reason why he kind of bungles everything, because he kind of loses his mind a little bit. But that's a thing that was completely cut out of the series, which is fine. They simplify.
I liked that Tyrion did have a moment of being wise in this, and they kind of he presents the case for who should rule, and for me this very much worked as a have your cake and eat it too type situation, because it's you get somebody to rule that is not what people expected, but when they present the reasoning, it's actually that tracks, while also the person that I would person I wanted to rule, you realize gets what she actually wanted. Sansa.
I was really mad she wasn't even nominated, though.
I get that, but I like that she got. I think one, if she could have nominated herself, because that would have been reminds you of old Sansa. But this whole time for seasons, ever since season 1 when Ned died, they've been the North's been hey, we're doing our own thing, and she's the one. Of course, she's the one to finally achieve that. You know what I mean? And so she gets to rule the North. And Bran gets to be the king, and that was a moment where I was like, Bran. And then I thought about it. It's no, that with what I understand of Westerosi history and what you understand of mythological kings, King Solomon, King Arthur, it's like, yeah, they all have, the ones that people remember all have crazy, like they went and they did the crazy thing and then they were a crazy prophet king and whatever. Like that's a thing. You know what I mean? Once that clicked for me, it's like, it's 100% what Bran is, and it makes sense to me.
I get what you mean. And I am on the same page as you. I just wish we had mentioned it earlier. I like the idea that, like, Bran is cool. In season 7, he was not. He was the weird dude in the corner, like, playing games with his hand. I don't know what he was doing. Like, he was just warging and, like, talking to himself. And it was like, could you hang out with somebody and, like, show them that, like, you are formidable. Yeah. Your mind is your most powerful gift, and you are a gift to Westeros that contains all of the history of everything that has ever happened. And you just to nod to that any earlier, because I love the pitch. It's like he's the boy who lost his ability to walk, but he learned how to fly. And, like, that's so beautiful. Remind me of Boy Who Could Fly. You guys remember that movie? If you do, comment down below. It's a bad movie. And I like the pitch for him to be the king.
Especially not being able to have children.
Not being able to have... physically, we just did a little research. No doctor, I don't know if looked at that situation. That might not be true.
And we finally get an answer to the question, like, what did we don't know what Dany meant by break. She meant she was going to rule forever. But, like, an actual solution to breaking the wheel, it's like, well, elect a new person. It's not about whoever their kids are, because we saw with Joffrey and Ramsay. And literally every kid of a ruler, it's like, it's not great.
They're awful.
But Trisha, what did you think of the person that ended up being on, not the Iron Throne,
and the scene as well, like of our council picking the new king?
I thought it was fine.
Right in the middle.
Didn't care, didn't do it for me. I would have loved to have seen Sansa at least nominated. That would have been cool.
Throw your hat in the ring.
And I don't think she should have nominated herself. I think someone else should have nominated her. She has proven herself an amazing leader through all of this. I do like that they said that it's not going to pass down through hereditary lines. That was probably the one thing that I liked about where this ended. I think Bran's an odd choice. And I know their whole thing was like, he's an odd choice, but that's why it works. For me, it didn't work. I think if you're going to give the pitch of the leaders are the ones with the interesting stories, Jon's backstory is way more interesting than Bran's. And if you're the kind of, like, throwing it back to the giver, if you're the kind of the giver-esque story keeper, a lot of times the person that has all the knowledge would then be the Grand Maester or the Hand or something like that. That doesn't, to me, translate to mean that he would have the best leadership qualities. We don't know what kind of rile up the troops speech he can give or any other, how he handles finances. Like, we don't know how he would be as a ruler. Yes, he's the three-eyed raven, and that's cool, and that gives him a lot of powers that were never really explained. So again, I was like, I guess it's fine.
I love the idea where, like, Tyrion goes in, which I do like that Tyrion, like, he wanted to leave, but it's like, no, your punishment's that you have to keep doing the thing that you are 50-50 on, which we've learned so far.
That was one of my favorite Peter Dinklage moments. And like, you'll be my hand. And he's like,
no.
It's okay.
Put me back in prison.
All right.
Kill me.
That was a good moment. I think for the fans who love Tyrion, which I feel like most of us, if not all of us, do, that we like to see him carry on as the Hand just because we like his character and Peter Dinklage's portrayal of that character.
And I also think it's the best seasons of the show when he was in King's Landing. So having him be back as the Hand, you know.
There you go. Yeah. I like the idea that Bran is like warging and going through time and everything, and Tyrion's like, okay, we have to go to war now, so can you go ahead and wrap it up? And then Bran just starts talking about something that happened 600 years ago. And they're like, whoa, cool, okay, so we need to do this now? Can you focus up?
But you know what would happen is, like, when people come to visit him, he would say something of like, but how does that make you feel, or something abstract, and people are like, oh, that's so deep.
Oh,
and what if be like, I guess,
man, you're burnt out on it.
What neither of you want, both of you want the kid. Well, what if we cut the kid in half, and then the mom that wants to sacrifice her, she's the one that gets it. Yeah, whatever, Bran. I don't know, man. Like,
I like the idea.
Like a fortune, I think my wife said it's like having a fortune cookie as a king.
I like the idea that if someone comes to meet with Bran and he's like, oh, whoa, did you know your great-grandfather had an incest baby and you were a result of that? Anyways, let's go ahead and kick it off. Let's go ahead. You want snacks?
The other thing I'll say about the Bran scene that I thought was weird is when everyone's like, okay, votes for Bran, even though no one else has been nominated, and everyone's like, I. And then Sansa's like, no, North is going to do their own thing. I understand why the North feels it needs to break off and why it is a cool solution to have the North break off. But I felt like in that moment, why wouldn't have everyone else just been like, cool, then we're going to break off and do our own thing too. And we can all rule together as a bunch of different kings. Like, no one put forth any of these other ideas. And I feel like there was just this unspoken, like, Sansa's like, well, Bran's not going to say no to me. It's Winterfell and I'm his sister. And everyone else maybe feeling like, well, I mean,
wait, could we have said that? I'd like to take my vote back.
Yeah, but also
that it just played out very weird.
After the war, did anybody have anything? Maybe they all need to be together because it's like, everything else is basically toast.
Like, Bron's the only winner here.
Yeah. Bron was the winner of the Game of Thrones. I think we can all agree on that. Bron won the Game of Thrones.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But we also get Jon being sent to be a part of the Night's Watch, which he raises a great question of why is there still one?
Yeah, but I think the answer is in how it represents, because he's basically steward of the Free Folk. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't want to get ahead of that. I am glad that we had Ghost, because I was like, the one thing I want to knock this episode is because once things started going down and people were complaining about like, oh, we didn't say bye to Ghost, and it's like, yeah, that's because it was a mistake. And I think that was the show trying to tell us he's making the wrong decision. And so what you need to close that loop is have Ghost be there. Because this is where he also belongs north of the wall.
I forgot he got bitten.
And Ghost was there. Yeah.
Now, I don't know how true this is, but my husbando, when they did the Ghost shot, was like, that was a separate shot. They added that in after. That was his immediate take from it. I don't know. We'd have to frame by frame it and figure it out if you even could. But
yeah, I don't think they could turn that around.
What if they could?
Yeah.
Would it?
Like if they just added that shot, it would be a ton of work to add.
We cut out elephants to have room to fix water bottles and coffee.
Yes, we didn't mention the water bottle in this episode, which I said to Sam before we started. I was like, to me, that's just the physical manifestation of no one caring anymore.
Yeah, they're tired. Well, hey, they're tired, and we understand that.
Also, I would argue someone did like it. When you're doing the most ambitious 3 episodes of TV in history of the world, sometimes things slip through the cracks.
Of course,
and
yes,
more so.
Like you don't
than
want them
we
to.
Thought.
You probably should have. You probably should have. But
things slip more through the cracks when you're hurried.
But really quick, want to dive
not paying attention
into
to detail.
we got Greyworm and the Unsullied get their own land, but like we've mentioned, they head off to Nath.
No.
Nath.
N-A-A-T-H, I believe.
I believe that's the way.
Nah. Who knows?
And I like Jon's.
It's not real.
I like Jon's goodbye for. It's not real. That's the most important. Made up.
Not real.
You guys don't like that explanation, do you?
It's all fake.
It's all fake. It doesn't matter. And that's our ending thoughts.
Yeah, for those of you out there, this isn't history.
Yeah,
it's not.
But for the end of our characters, we see Brienne writing fan fiction for Jaime. They're all facts.
That was another. I liked the moment.
I like that moment
but
too.
When I saw her in the Kingsguard uniform, I kind of wanted her to turn the page and have her thing there.
Yep, Sir Brienne of Tarth.
Because in my mind, Jaime's story's done. I'm fine. I don't need. I like the way it ended. I'm fine with that. For me, what made me emotional on that is that she when we first meet her, she's competing to be the Kingsguard for Renly, and now she's finally the Kingsguard. And it's like, man, like doing it.
I'm with you. I was hoping for a page that said Sir Brienne of Tarth, but I actually liked her filling in Jaime's page in a way that was vague enough.
Yeah.
That she wasn't like, and then he was a total craphead.
Yeah.
Like
he dumped the coolest knight in all 6 kingdoms.
He died protecting his queen.
To be last little dig though, towards Jaime, she did not wait for the ink to dry when she closed the book. So it's gonna be all smudgy.
That's smeared up all over the place.
It's gonna be all smudgy.
But just wanted to give a shout out to the small council. Now we have Bron, we have Sam as a maester.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
Grand Maester.
Grand Maester. There you go. Davos, because of course you got to have him. Bron, and you have Sir Podrick.
Yeah, he's not part of the small council. He's wheeling
not,
around
but
Bran, but he's a knight.
Kingsguard.
And honestly, when they got one, I didn't realize how much I missed small council scenes. 2, I could watch those group of people bicker forever.
Yeah. And I think that's what Benioff and Weiss meant when they were like, I think that fans are going to be satisfied with the conclusion. I think they meant that because those people are like the ruling group moving forward, and those are all generally pretty liked characters, that people will be happy.
It's only going to be a couple generations before everything goes back to
Exactly, but it was cute seeing Tyrion fix the chairs. I thought that was a sweet moment. There's moments where you get to see like some genuine character moments where it's like he's just trying to make it nice.
It was sweet, but the whole rest of the room was perfect. So whoever put that room back together did everything except for the chairs.
Yeah, fire that guy.
It was Bran. It was Bran. He's like, Tyrion, I've seen the future. Tyrion's going to want to adjust these.
He warped into some ravens and they just knocked over the chairs. Classic.
And then we end with kind of how we began with what remains of the Stark children. Arya is going west of Westeros. What's there? She's going to find out.
Native Americans, maybe? We don't know. We have our theories, but it will probably be one of the many spin-off series. Are they all supposed to be prequels?
I thought so. Are they all supposed to be prequels?
I don't know.
Yeah. You're bummed. Sorry. You've mentioned that you've explained how you felt, but that right when you said that, I felt it in my heart.
Do you like Arya's final
I'm sorry.
No, we didn't get any answers to why maybe she became a many-faced assassin. Like, that card wasn't pulled. Like, I don't know. There's just so many things that were just left. And I saw someone snarkily retort, like, well, good thing we have prequels and YouTube discussion shows then.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so we're just supposed to assume that shows aren't going to answer any questions and all go the way of Lost and we'll figure it out on our own?
Ooh,
cool.
How about this? Okay, here we go. Pitch.
Yeah.
Take it, Sam.
End of Days of Future Past. What do we see? We see Wolverine pull out of the river, and then for some reason Stryker is Mystique. There's literally, and that is never answered whatsoever. What if at the end pulls off face
and it's Mystique,
and it's Cersei, and you're like, what in the world? Why would they do this? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No one knows your sins over there, do they, Cersei? But anyways,
yeah,
that
I don't know.
didn't happen.
I liked the idea that Arya was going off to explore unknown worlds.
Yeah,
because
she's not going to
okay
settle.
with that.
She's not going to settle. And what's the biggest adventure of them all? It's going and discovering something new.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that being where she ended up. I would have loved to seen some things addressed before we went there.
There you go.
I really liked where things ended up with Sansa. She finally got what she's been fighting for 2 to 3 seasons, but the North's been fighting for through the whole show, and she's crowned Queen of the North. And I felt very emotional when they were chanting Queen of the North, because if anybody's earned it, she's earned it.
Can we also just say that breastplate that she wears in that end scene?
It's dope.
I was like, how much could I pay a blacksmith to make that
also,
for
let's
me?
throw up that asset again.
Yeah,
that crown
Sansa.
is rad.
It's
the crown is rad. The breastplate and the dress are rad. The throne is rad.
Yeah, she's killing it.
Yeah, she's real cool.
And then ending with, like we said, Jon up in the North, and our last shot is kind of, I thought this was really meaningful, because this was a good bookend to the show, because we begin with the North being a very scary, dangerous place of people are being murdered by White Walkers. And I think the biggest success these people, like the reason Dany came over, Davos even says in the council meeting, like, hey, we couldn't have done this without you, when he's talking to the Unsullied, is now these families, these children are going to the North.
Yeah, they were refugees, and they have
a home again.
They have their land back, and they get to explore. And we did kind of talk about on the show the idea of maybe you getting a hint that maybe the White Walkers aren't gone, or like there's a mystery of like another threat up in the North. And it's fine, it's not, because it's also like maybe these kids can just have a normal home and they're not being hunted by zombies.
Again, for one generation,
for
and then
one,
will go
give it some time, and they just got to reform in the snow, and they'll come right back. Or someone trips on dragonglass, goes through their heart, and they turn into the new Night King. It could happen.
It could happen.
All I'm saying is
again, 10 years from now.
I would have loved to have seen some hint at the end that there was another Night King, because everything's cyclical. And I think a lot of the people who are upset with the people who are hating on it, like I think a lot of the people who are liking it are kind of straw-manning the people who didn't like its argument by saying, you just wanted a happy ending. You didn't get the ending you want. Which is not true at all. Yeah. A lot of us that are unhappy with it still want a crap ending, because it's Game of Thrones. We just wanted it different. But this actually... I want to throw out a tweet that I found that I was like, this actually kind of makes me feel better about it. Was someone said, Arya Stark, Queen of the New World. Jon Snow, King of the Free Folks. Sansa Stark, Queen in the North. Brandon Stark, King of 6 Kingdoms. All hail House Stark. Now, that is not how they ended it, because there are no kings of the Free Folk. That's why they're called the Free Folk.
Yeah.
And, it's in Arya, we have no reason to believe she would be queen of whatever she discovers.
Yeah. And Sansa, if she finds a consort or a king, she's going to lose the Stark name unless they change those rules.
This is a bunch of like beautiful butterfly farts in a tweet, but it did make me feel a little bit better about what happened.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, gang? We got some. I want to rate this episode in just a second, but before we do that, let's take a look over at our Patreon Q&A with Mr. Steve Zaragoza?
I don't know, man. I felt underwhelmed. When do you feel good in a finale though? Like, I'm wearing this Heisenberg hat because it's like, because Breaking Bad ended like perfectly for me. There's just no way they were gonna make everybody happy, you know? Yeah. I will say though, before I forget it, my absolute favorite moment of the finale was.
And there you go. You can go ahead and click up there, and the link down below in the description to go watch that. But really quick, let's go ahead and rate this finale and this final season as a whole.
Well, do we want to do? Yeah, we can do.
Let's kick it off with you.
Cool. Do we want to do the whole this season? Because we could do that in the next.
Yeah, let's do it now.
Let's do it now. All right. For me, I would give this episode an A. I thought it was a lovely finale to the show. I would give this season overall maybe a B-. I don't think it's the weakest season of the show. I think 5 and 6 were pretty rough for me. But I think it ended strong, which for me was where it mattered.
There you go, Trisha. This finale and the final season as a whole.
The finale to me, I would probably give like a 4 out of 10, because it was fine to below average. I would say, like I'm sitting somewhere in between fine, I don't care, and I didn't like it. So I would give that a 4. And the reason that I give it a 4 and not a lower score is because the acting was brilliant. The cinematography was brilliant, which I would say then if we talk about this entire season, I think it's been shot brilliantly. I think it is a masterful feat for television in general.
And film.
And I think the acting was absolutely sublime. But to me, it Indiana Jones style ripped the heart out of the franchise.
Oh.
So I can't get behind this season. This season was very, very sad for me as a fan to sit through.
I like the analogy you used though.
Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was. I mean, this season was great television. I think that it ripped the heart out of the series, out of the franchise.
There you go. I give this for the finale. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And it's a positive score for me. And overall, I really like the season. Like, even when you guys were kind of like, or for you specifically, kind of like in the middle when it came to like the long night and the Battle of Winterfell, I was still on board with it. Again, Sam should be dead. From Sam to another Sam, you should be dead, man. But hey, overall, I enjoyed it. So I'll give the season as a whole 7 out of 10 as well. But you let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Make sure you check out our Q&A with Steve. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out our other reviews. We have one for Aladdin, Brightburn, maybe Ma coming out soon. Ooh. We have Detective Pikachu Deep Dive, which was a lot of fun, which you should go watch, please, because that one costs a little bit of money to make, so you should go watch it. Anywho's, make sure you go ahead and follow Trisha everywhere that matters.
Oh, thank you. That Girl Trish on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram with no I in the girl, so just that GRL Trish, and YouTube and Twitch / Trisha Hirschberger.
DJ Talks Trash everywhere that matters.
At Sam Basher everywhere that matters. And that might be social on Twitter and Instagram. But gang, we love you. Hopefully you guys could be cordial in the comments down below.
That'd be nice.
We're all good friends.
There you go. Hey, it's okay if you didn't like it or if you did like it. But overall, don't send hate mail anyways. We'll see you next time.
And real quick, when we're doing the comment thing and the not hating and stuff, it's okay to have different opinions, and you can hate or like things and not have to change everybody else's opinion to be the same as yours.
Boom.
Also, we should be back next week to kind of discuss our feelings of the series overall now that it's finally wrapped up.
There you go. Don't miss out. And also Patreon people, you're going to be a part of that. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.